The late afternoon sun baked the pavement of Cedar Ridge Estates as Sergeant First Class Daniel Reyes slowly exited his truck. His movements were deliberate, measured. The result of years of pain management after an IED explosion overseas. His prosthetic knee clicked softly as he stepped down. A sound he'd grown used to, though others often noticed. He reached behind the seat for his cane, inhaling deeply before straightening up. Daniel had lived in the neighborhood for 6 quiet months. He kept to himself, followed the rules, and rarely interacted with anyone beyond a polite nod. That peace ended the moment a shrill voice cut through the still air. "Excuse me. You can't park there." Daniel turned to see a woman marching toward him. Clipboard in hand, sunglasses perched like armor. Her perfectly pressed polo bore the HOA logo. She didn't wait for a response. "That's a temporary stop zone," she snapped. "You're violating HOA Regulation 12.4. I can issue a fine right now." Daniel calmly gestured to the blue placard hanging from his mirror. "I'm disabled. I'll only be a minute." She scoffed loudly. "Everyone has an excuse. That sticker doesn't give you special privileges. Rules are rules." A few neighbors peeked through blinds as the confrontation escalated. Daniel felt the familiar tightening in his chest, not fear, but exhaustion. He'd faced worse than this. Yet moments like these reminded him how invisible sacrifice could be. "I just got back from a VA appointment," he said evenly. "Walking long distances isn't easy." The woman leaned closer, lowering her voice with condescension. "Then maybe this isn't the right neighborhood for you." That did it. Daniel straightened slightly, jaw tightening. "Ma'am, I own this house. I follow every rule." She scribbled aggressively on her clipboard. "Fine. Enjoy your citation. We'll see how tough you are when the board reviews this." She slapped a neon warning sticker onto his windshield with unnecessary force and stormed off, heels clicking triumphantly. Daniel stared at the sticker, anger simmering beneath calm discipline. He'd learned restraint in combat zones, but this felt personal. Still, he removed the sticker carefully, folded it, and slipped it into his pocket. He didn't know her name yet. He didn't know her position beyond HOA. What he did know was that this wasn't over, and when it ended, she'd regret every word. By the next morning, Daniel's mailbox was stuffed with notices. Parking violation. Lawn inspection warning. Trash bin misalignment. Each citation carried the same signature, Karen Whitmore, HOA president. Daniel read them in silence, his face unreadable, though his patience thinned with every page. Karen stood on her porch across the street, arms crossed, watching him. She smiled smugly when he looked up. That smile said everything. This wasn't about rules. It was about power. Daniel spent the morning documenting everything. Photos. Dates. Times. He called the HOA office, calmly requesting copies of bylaws. The receptionist sounded nervous, transferring him twice before placing him on hold indefinitely. That afternoon, Karen knocked on his door without invitation. Daniel opened it slowly. "You're racking up violations fast," she said, peering past him into the house. "I suggest compliance before fines become liens." Daniel met her gaze. "I've requested formal documentation. Until then, I'll continue following federal disability protections." Karen laughed. "This isn't the military. Your little status doesn't scare me." Something flickered behind Daniel's eyes, but his voice remained steady. "You should be careful what you say." She leaned in. "And you should remember who runs this neighborhood." As she turned to leave, she added, "The board meets Friday. I'll recommend further action." That night, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, staring at a framed photo of his old unit. Men and women who trusted him with their lives. He picked up his phone and made one call. Friday arrived quickly. The HOA meeting room filled with residents, murmurs echoing. Karen sat at the head, confident, tapping her pen as Daniel entered quietly. Dressed neatly, posture straight despite the pain. Next item, Karen announced. Is enforcement action against Mr. Reyes for repeated noncompliance. Daniel stood. Before this proceeds, I'd like to introduce myself properly. Karen rolled her eyes. This isn't story time. Daniel reached into his jacket and placed a worn leather folder on the table. Sergeant First Class Daniel Reyes. United States Army. 22 years of service. Bronze Star. Purple Heart. The room went silent. Karen froze. Daniel opened the folder, sliding documents across the table with controlled precision. Service records. Medical discharge papers. Federal disability accommodation laws highlighted in yellow. Each page landed like a quiet thunderclap. Several board members leaned forward, expressions shifting from boredom to alarm. One man adjusted his glasses, reading carefully. Another whispered, "Oh my God." Karen's confident posture faltered. "That's irrelevant," she stammered. "This is about HOA rules." Daniel nodded calmly. "Actually, it's about discrimination and harassment. Federal law supersedes HOA bylaws, especially when enforced selectively." A resident stood up. "Karen, you never cited anyone else for those things." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Karen's face reddened. "I was just doing my job." Daniel met her eyes. "Your job doesn't give you the right to target a disabled veteran." The board chair cleared his throat. "Ms. Whitmore, did you issue multiple citations without board review?" Karen hesitated too long. I have discretion." Daniel spoke again, voice firm but controlled. "I've documented every interaction, including statements suggesting I don't belong here. My attorney and the VA legal office are reviewing this." That was the breaking point. Karen's clipboard slipped from her hands, clattering to the floor. The chair exhaled sharply. "This meeting is adjourned. Effective immediately. Enforcement against Mr. Reyes is suspended pending investigation." Residents turned to Daniel, some nodding respectfully. A woman whispered, "Thank you for your service." Karen rushed out, avoiding eye contact, her authority evaporating in seconds. Daniel remained seated until the room cleared. Pain pulsed through his leg, but his resolve was unshaken. He hadn't wanted this fight, but he wouldn't back down. Outside, the evening air felt lighter. He looked up at the flag flying near the clubhouse, saluted briefly, then lowered his hand. For the first time since moving in, he felt seen. The fallout was swift. Within a week, an official notice was mailed to every homeowner. Karen Whitmore was removed as HOA president pending legal review. The board issued a formal apology to Daniel Reyes, acknowledging serious failures in leadership and conduct. Karen didn't leave her house much after that. When she did, her once proud stride was gone, replaced by hurried steps and lowered eyes. Neighbors who once avoided conflict now spoke openly about her behavior. The power she wielded had vanished overnight. Daniel returned to his quiet routines. Morning stretches, coffee on the porch, physical therapy twice a week. One afternoon, a knock came at his door. It was the board chair. "We'd like you to consider joining the HOA," he said awkwardly. "Your perspective could help." Daniel smiled politely. "I'll think about it." Word spread beyond Cedar Ridge Estates. A local paper ran a short article about the incident, praising community accountability. Veterans from nearby neighborhoods stopped by to thank Daniel for standing his ground. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Daniel noticed a small sign placed near the entrance. "Reserved parking, disabled residents." It hadn't been there before. He sat back, breathing in the cool air. Justice hadn't come through shouting or threats, but through discipline, documentation, and dignity, lessons the military had taught him well. Across the street, Karen watched from behind her curtains. Regret heavy and unavoidable. She had assumed authority meant superiority. She had been wrong. Daniel tapped his cane lightly against the porch, a quiet rhythm of resilience. He didn't need recognition. He only needed respect. And this time, he had earned it all over again.